right, welcome back, everybody. Rogue One 6, we're doing collection tour today. It's been a while since we've done these. We obviously have done a lot. We have a lot on our channel, but it's been a minute, and so we're happy to get back into it. Jason, thanks for being here. We've got Steven. Is it Useda?
Useda, yeah.
Useda, okay. Yeah, we got Steven with us. You have obviously a beautiful collection, Steven. We've seen, I think a lot of people probably have seen your images across different groups.
Yeah.
And you just have a really nice, well displayed, well lit collection. So that we just kind of, Jason and I were talking about this, and we were just like, man, we should, if we start this up, we should get Steven on, because I think it would just be a fun collection to go through. So,
yeah.
Jason, why don't you do you want to talk a little bit about Steven's history with Star Wars and any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so as we were talking off camera, we were talking a little bit about age and introductions to Star Wars movies. Steve had mentioned that his first introduction was right around Revenge of the Sith. So I had mentioned, it's interesting to see a heavily related OT collection. With that being said, do you mind me asking specifically, like, where you skipped over the whole vintage Kenner aspect that we usually see nine out of 10 times with collectors? Where or how you kind of got into collecting, or where Star Wars sort of got you, and how you basically, without going too long, like how you got into it and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so that's kind of a funny story because when I grew up, everybody was just real into Clone Wars. That was like the biggest thing when I was a kid. And for whatever reason, I just never super got into it. It's cool now, but back then I was just really watching a lot of the original trilogy just with my dad. So that's kind of the reason I had. And we had the special editions on VHS, and I just grew up watching 60s, 70s, 80s movies all the time. So
Nice.
It's a good father.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah.
did the right thing.
Well, my dad was older, so I think the first movies I remember watching were not movies, but TV show was Lost in Space. I don't know if you guys seen the 60s real cheesy version.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lot of
Cheesy
the type of
version.
movies, like, black and white, real bad special effects kind of thing. But
Yeah,
You can see the string on the spaceship.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah,
Man.
John Williams did the music for that. I just found that out recently.
Oh,
Did he
okay.
really?
Yeah, he did. I don't know how old he was.
Well, he's
But
still somehow that
He's
guy's
probably
still
50
alive.
back then.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He's probably
No, I'm
60
kidding, I'm
years
kidding.
old.
yeah,
Guy's ancient. It's amazing. He's still alive.
No, I think he was young. That was 60s, right? Yeah, this is
yeah,
probably
it would have
in
been
his
mid
late 20s.
60s. So maybe
He
he
probably
was
would have been
20
like
years
his
old or something.
20s. Yeah.
It's freaking
But
crazy.
yeah, I grew up just watching a lot of old movies, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Jaws, all that stuff. And not that I didn't like the prequels, but that's just all of my memories as a kid were just watching those movies over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So
what's interesting, real quick, Steven, Jason and I were talking about this the other day, just a couple days ago. I don't know how we got on the topic, but this reminded me of that, of how crazy it is that Star Wars holds up even today. Because you can watch some older movies. I mean, even Lost in Space, let's say you watch that now, like my kids can't watch that. They're going to watch that and be like, this is ancient. But they can watch Star Wars.
You're right.
They can watch the original trilogy and be like, it's just like almost like any other movie. Like you can tell it's a little bit older, but like it still holds up so well. It's crazy.
It holds up really well.
Yeah, I remember being confused when I was a kid because we had the special editions. Obviously, I never saw anything before that.
Right.
But at some point I just didn't understand that CGI wasn't a thing. I'm talking like 9 years old.
Right.
Back in the 70s. So I'm watching the intro to the first Star Wars, and I was like, man, they did these effects back in the 70s. That's crazy. Obviously
That's
saw the different cuts later, but
that's interesting to hear from somebody who's younger. I had never thought of that.
Yeah,
because you
that was
grow
the
up and
first
you're so
version I
used
saw.
to seeing everything CGI related, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
trying to adapt that to or apply it to older movies and distinguish. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that's the Revenge of the Sith, though, was probably one of the first movies I saw in the theater that I can remember. That, and I think I don't know what year it was, whatever year that King Kong movie came out.
You mean the like the Peter Jackson King Kong,
I think
or
so.
like
I had the one
yeah,
with Jack Black.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Those were the first movies that I remember seeing in theater, but for sure, just the VHS repeats of the original trilogy was watching like over
yeah,
and over again. I probably
yeah.
wore those things through.
Do you
That's
mind me
awesome.
asking, was your dad a collector of anything?
He wasn't. My dad was a real just busy, like working guy. So he would work
Mhm,
maybe like 5, 6 days a week, 10, 12 hour days.
mhm.
Oh, okay.
And he had his own business. So, um, but on the weekends, that's when, if we had some time, that's probably when we'd rewatch those sort of things. So,
Nice. Okay, some cinema classics. Now, when you were younger, were you into anything specific? Did you get into like cards, comics, figures, anything like that?
I was into Lego Star Wars actually. So
Oh,
if anything now it's kind of a natural progression because, around 2010 or so, I felt like that was like peak, Clone Wars, all these sets and
Yeah,
everything.
sure.
Just this small stuff that's kind of the stuff that I grew up with. And besides that, I didn't really collect anything. It was weird. I got into photography, when I
Mhm.
was maybe 13 or 14, and started doing that as a job probably when I was 17 or 18,
Nice.
oh,
all
okay.
the way through college. So, um, but I haven't really been a collector of anything until relatively recently.
Hmm.
I think, like a lot of people, they kind of got back into stuff during COVID. So I found myself picking up like a few Star Wars sets just out of curiosity. Like, it's been 8 or 10 years since I built anything. Like, let me get one and see how it is now.
Just get that
But
one, right?
well, now
Just
here
get
we
that
are.
one.
So
Just get the one.
I'm sure you
Just
all
get
know
that
how
one.
it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's another thing I was gonna say. As you've been part of the groups and as you've been participating and sharing, I've noticed it's been quite a fast growth, right?
Definitely.
Where some people it starts off with a few pieces and then gradually goes from there. And especially, how do I say this politely? Like taking into consideration like the items we have in front of us on screen, right? These
Yeah.
aren't entry level items by any
Mhm.
means. I mean, the
Yeah.
maquettes are, but
Yeah.
regardless, they're a bit of an investment. So usually you see that, and I get asked questions all the time, right? People see collections and, oh my God, like how did you get this? And I can't wait to get that. And I'm like, I tell a lot of younger guys, like, slow down. Like a lot of these collections you're looking at, these guys have been collecting for 10, 15,
Mhm,
20
Oh
years.
yeah.
mhm.
This isn't something that somebody's done over a year or two. And we
Right.
have a select few, such as yourself, and there's another gentleman that's been in the groups lately who has acquired, I think, almost every MR signature hilt in like a 6 month
Jeez.
time frame,
Wow.
which I thought was bananas, right? Because it's not even the financial part, but the time, right?
Mhm.
What I used to say a lot, not always, but what I always used to say is, it can almost be like a second full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Because you're always on the hunt, you're
Finding new
balancing
pieces.
and juggling all these different conversations, and
Yeah.
did this pop up for sale? Maybe you missed that, and so yeah, that gets a little tricky. But with that being said, was there anything specific about the Regal Robot stuff, in and of itself that caught your eye, other than the obvious, or like, did you have an idea that you wanted to go in a specific direction, or did you just like get a piece and from there, like it just triggered something?
Thinking back, which wasn't even that long ago, uh, I was at my last apartment and I had a pretty extensive Lego collection that I kind of acquired over a period of maybe like 3 or 4 years. So I had all the UCS sets. I mean, I'm sure Matt, you're familiar with the Falcon. I was hearing you
Yeah.
joking about it the other day. Hate
Yeah.
to bring it back up, but
No,
I had
it's fine. It's
yeah,
fine.
I had the Falcon, the AT-AT, the Star Destroyer,
Yeah.
pretty much all of those.
They're great, dude.
And
They're great. They really are
they're
incredible.
cool,
They're incredible
but
sets.
what did it in for me was I moved a year and a half ago, and holy crap, it was bad trying to move those even just across town, like 15 minutes. It was
Yeah, moving
horrible,
Lego sets, man. Holy shit.
falling apart, everything's just breaking all the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
Did that.
I believe I want to say it was the Hyperdrive channel. I'm trying to remember. I think George had a video on the Rancor maquette,
Mhm.
and I had never heard of Regal Robot before, but it popped up in my feed, and yeah, one heck of a first piece, I guess, to invest into, if you want to call it that. But I thought
Yeah.
it was cool because I've always been real big into the behind the scenes aspect of filmmaking.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it was kind of bringing both, worlds together. Like you had the side of me that's been interested in making movies and short films and things for, going on 10 years now. and then the
Yeah.
other part of me that just has a love for Star Wars. So it felt like a good way to connect and kind of have both of those together.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed, and we'll get into it, but I don't think I've seen you don't have any helmets in your collection
I
yet,
do not.
right?
No.
Okay, so
He
is
said
there any
yet.
thought? Is there any yeah? Is
Yes.
there any thought of you? Are you thinking about getting any of those at all? Or,
I'm doing my best not to.
okay,
I have 2 on order, and I think I'm gonna try to leave it at that.
which
I
ones?
I I picked up the RS, AT-AT helmet.
Okay, it's good.
I
Nice.
got that one on
That's
order,
great.
and then the Mike Warren, Empire Vader, and that's
Oh,
about
nice.
it.
Cool.
Great piece.
Great. Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
I had a Bouch, Bausch. How do
Yeah,
you guys pronounce it?
Bausch. Yeah,
Bausch?
Bausch. Yeah.
I think this got discussed in the San Diego Comic-Con stream.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I had that helmet, but I ended up selling it to get some of these other pieces, so,
Okay.
but yeah, I think part of the reason I was able to get a lot of these things fast was while I've only been collecting Regal pieces for a year, I had a stockpile of, like, 3 years worth of collecting Lego.
Mm.
So, and a lot of these retired already.
But see,
So I sold them, got above retail
this is
for
what we
a good
say,
amount of
dude.
them.
This is what we say all the time, man. Like use your
Use the
collection.
collection to pay for the
Let your
collection.
collection
Yeah.
fund your collection, essentially, right? Like, what do you want? Look in your shelves and figure out what you can get rid of or what you don't like as much anymore, and freaking go get what you
Yeah.
want, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
We saw that a
great.
lot about 2 years back. A lot of the Hot Toys guys would say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I love this. I love the Tuscan bus, but I can never afford that." And it's
Mm,
like, well, if you sold, and at the time, right, not today's value, but at that time, if
Yeah.
you had sold 5 or 6 Hot Toys,
right.
there's 50, 60% of your bust right there, right? Paid for. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, whenever you can make a lateral move, especially when you're phasing out of something, it's
Yeah.
that
Right.
much better too.
Yeah, it is.
So you're not really taking that hit. But I like the idea. I like what you mentioned that you're having the best of both worlds, right? Where you get
Yeah.
not only like because some people have the nostalgia aspect, which you
Mhm.
still have. So
A
you're
little
hitting
bit.
on the nostalgia, but then you get the sort of behind the scenes film aspect of it, right? Sort of that curiosity and intrigue of how does this work and how did it all come together because it's something you do as a profession, and then also appreciating it for what it is, which is just the characters that you've grown to love through watching those movies. Yeah, the maquettes especially, and I love the way you have them displayed. They're so beautifully well lit, and I like that you gave
Really
them
nice.
room to breathe.
Yeah, really nice.
Appreciate it.
I know the idea is to sort of couple them all together,
Yeah.
but that just something about how clean and precise they look, just really allows each one to stand, on its
Yeah,
own.
it's really clean.
And yeah, and I think it for somebody who may not know, or somebody who comes in, maybe you have a guest, or they're familiar with Star Wars, but they're not familiar with what the maquette line is. It's a great way to sort of spark conversation and sort of break that down. And I think I think it's great the way you took this approach.
Mhm. Well,
Appreciate it.
and if I think what's interesting is you look at and Steven, you do a lot of photography and stuff yourself. You posted something not too long ago about lighting
Oh, yeah, yeah.
your collection, how to take pictures of your collection and how important shadows are and all that stuff. And yeah, it's just what you've done here is very clean and just very nice looking. Like it draws your eye into each piece, and it's a really well manicured. I don't, I don't know if that's
It's
the
a
word.
curated, well
Yeah,
Yeah,
curated.
curated. It's just
something like
very
that,
nice.
yeah.
It's just very nice. So I appreciate your attention to detail and all that stuff. It's great. Um, but this stuff, I mean, and dude, honestly, like what I mean, let's a round of applause to Regal Robot and what they've done
Oh, yeah, man.
with the whole archive collection feel and even all the bigger pieces. I mean, here people are getting a perfect understanding and a visual of what having most of the Regal Robot stuff together
Yeah.
Yeah,
can feel like in a collection. Um,
I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
yeah, I just don't think we see that all the time. Like we see a bunch of pieces, even in my collection. I don't have I have some Regal Robot stuff here and there, but like
Oh, the
it's
mix and
mixed with
match, the way they're
Sideshow.
displayed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mixed with Iron Studios and all this other stuff, which works just as well. It's just nice to see something that is mainly Regal Robot displayed together. It just feels really good together. Um, displays very nice. I really like it. Um, is there any, by the way, is there any maquette that's your favorite at this point?
Um, I feel almost obligated to say the Rancor just
Yeah.
because it's the first one and obviously the most expensive there.
Yeah.
But probably the hardest one for me to hunt down was probably the signature V's before they decided to do the numbered edition.
Okay.
I think I was searching for that one maybe for 5 months or so till I finally
Wow.
found one at a reasonable price.
Yep.
But yeah, I think so. I'm sure the new Gamorrean's gonna topple all of them once it comes in.
It's
But
gonna be pretty awesome. And you were saying, Steven, you're saying that you're going. We were talking before we recorded that you're saying
yeah,
that you're kind of going for more the signatures, not the legacy
that's what I'm
version.
thinking. I did get the legacy version of the Gamorrean,
Mm-hmm.
but I know some people are real I guess call it OCD about, oh, I want to go all signature, all legacy.
Sure.
For me, it wasn't so much about did I care about the character. It's more about the art itself. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, there's a little bit of it too of, is the character interesting to me?
Yeah. Sure.
So I got it with the Rancor. I didn't really know what to expect from Regal Robot going forward. And, they continued to put them out again and again. And I don't think I ended up getting another legacy edition until the Wampa. So my kind of initial idea, I guess, was just to only get it for big pieces. Like, the Rancor is a
Yeah.
big maquette, the Wampa is a big puppet.
You
The
got
one that,
you got a cool drawing though.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
some
you
that are
could.
pretty rough, or we won't call
Yeah.
it rough. We'll call them unique, right?
Well,
Um,
when you have carpal tunnel from signing so many plaques, like
yeah,
it,
man.
like you're gonna suffer, right, at times. But
Yeah.
no, honestly, this is a
Yeah,
really good.
it's
This
like
is a really good.
silhouetted. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. It's really
Um,
cool.
it's funny. I ended up with number 92. I was right there at checkout time. It was my
Mhm.
first checkout experience with Regal Robot. Had everything saved right away. Had website issues. That was before they updated the website,
Sure.
and barely got in on the on the Legacy edition, even being there right at 11 o'clock.
That's crazy.
Oh wow. Okay.
I
But
really like this guy, the color.
Yeah.
Bib is
What's
cool. He's
yeah the
he's
bib.
real saturated. I do like the color on Max also.
Yeah.
I didn't get the signature. I had an opportunity to buy them, but I just couldn't stomach paying like 4 times over retail for a black
No.
full tippet.
Yeah, I'm glad that you have reasonable thinking because some people would.
Yeah,
And that becomes, when you're doing it like at, by hook or by crook, I'm gonna get this piece. That's another thing I share with people at times. I'm like, just remain patient because at one
yeah,
point
Right.
it will become available. You don't
Absolutely.
have to have it like yesterday or now. And that's important because it affects the collection in the long run.
yeah. I think pretty much every piece, with the exception of in terms of the maquettes, at least, with the exception of Jabba, I got for retail.
Oh, killer.
So um,
Good.
even the Tauntauns, I saw somebody sell one for like $1,200 on eBay a few weeks ago, and it was just ridiculous. But
Dude, Regal Robot stuff, man. It's crazy, dude.
I remember that. Remember we were talking about this, Matt. And Steve, I'm sure you remember this too. It's that weird period where they were going up in value regardless, but there was
yeah,
this weird period around like February, March
yeah,
till about April, May, where they were like,
hmm
jobs are going for well over 1,000, some close to
yeah,
two
it's crazy.
thousand, and even some of the more like Weequay and yeah, it's just I was like, wow, these are getting up there. But I think you had a handful of people all competing for the same pieces, and it
Mm.
just kept driving it up. And then once those people accumulated them, acquired them rather, that accumulation of value that had gone up kind of just dropped significantly.
I
Yeah.
got a vast majority of mine in December, so I think I avoided
Also,
a lot
right
of that.
before,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. I didn't know at the time, but I got to think. You guys know Mike Costa?
Yeah.
Costa?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me probably 4 or 5 of those maquettes for retail.
Oh,
So
cool. That's
Nice.
nice. Yeah, that's
um,
nice.
that definitely helped out.
Dude, I like this lighting, this little like light thing you got here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
those are
especially with the
the
size and
pretty
height of
bars.
Chewie.
Yeah, lighting Chewie up. That's cool.
I will say they're annoying if you shoot video because they tend to flicker.
Flicker a little bit, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The other ones really don't do that, but that one I can't find a shutter speed that doesn't flicker with them.
That's funny. They're cool though. I do like them.
Yeah, they're cool.
I got to find something that works on my top shelf because my top shelf is like a freaking black pit of death, and there's stuff up there, but you can't see it, So, this is a cool little area here. So, Okay, here's a good question. Out of these two, which one would you
Mm,
say is your favorite out of these two?
That's a tough one.
Mm,
That's a real tough one. I mean, they're because I've seen both of these. So I don't have. I'm trying to think. I don't have either one of these anymore because they were starting to get really. It's hard for me in my tiny room to display larger things, and it started to become a thing for me. So, um, but in real life, these things are unbelievable.
yeah.
Like if you get your actual human eyeballs on one of these things, they're freaking incredible. Like they really are. Um, I know what I would say, but what about you, Steven?
I I'm almost tempted to say Salacious. I'm
Okay.
tempted, but I went through a lot of effort to get the Rancor, so I'm gonna have to.
so,
I'm
so
sure
it's
you all know a little bit of the
the
background.
the
Yeah,
experience of getting it. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, so I kind of got to go with the Rancor. I'm somehow got it all the way back down here in one piece. So
that's
Yeah,
amazing. And the
you took
things
a
we do
long
for
trip to get it, right?
yeah, so I picked it up from Chase in Vegas,
Yeah,
and I'm in
yeah.
South Texas. So uh,
did you at least
uh,
enjoy some things on the along the way, or was it just a straight
I was in
round trip?
Vegas. So what I did actually, which maybe it wasn't the best decision, but I had limited time between work. I flew from well, I was supposed to fly from here. It was like setback after setback. I got my
Mm,
flight canceled at 2 o'clock in the morning,
jeez.
Mm.
rescheduled, but they didn't have any. So I drove to San Antonio, got there at like, 6 a.m., didn't sleep at all, got on a plane, flew from there to Chicago, changed in Chicago, went to Vegas, and then picked up a rental car, met Chasen, and then I kind of enjoyed my trip on the way back.
Jeez,
So
dude. Did
way
it
there was horrible.
did you feel like was this like something you felt like you had to do right at that time, or was it just like
So I had back-to-back weddings on
okay,
either side.
okay,
And then the other thing was is that I had wanted to go hiking. That's
okay.
something I do a lot of.
Yeah.
And there's a mountain there in Flagstaff that I kind of had already had like hotels and everything. Like kind of, I was
So
I
it
was
made
gonna go to Arizona anyway. I
yeah, it
just
made
figured
sense.
like, oh, why not detour? It's only
Sure,
like 3 hours, right?
sure.
So
Yeah.
No,
Jeez.
um,
see, I think that's great because I've heard many stories of people going above and beyond to acquire certain pieces, and I'm like, hey, like, did you spend a day or did you hit up some restaurant?
yeah,
Did you do anything? No, I drove 6 hours this way, 10. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like if you, I mean, I know it's hard, right? Because you're trying to fit that in between life and work, but it's good that you're able to take advantage and do a little bit extra. But yeah, there's something to say for that, right? Like the amount of because the thing that frustrates me sometimes is when people look at collections, automatically their mindset goes to the financial aspect.
yeah,
And as I mentioned earlier off camera, it's time. Time is
Mhm.
just as valuable, if not more so,
Yeah.
right? And the
for
amount
sure.
of time that we invest, and sometimes some of the red tape we go through, and the sort of the hoops and bounds we go through, but that's also part of the fun, right?
Yeah,
Like it's the chase, that hunt, getting that piece, acquiring that piece, and even learning about that piece, the understanding and the background and discussing it. Like there's so much more intrinsic value to something rather than just taking it out of the box and putting it on your shelf.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a story now that goes along with the Rancor, and it just makes it a little bit more, it's just a little bit more memorable.
Oh yeah,
But
for sure.
for sure.
yeah, it's just one of those things where it's you know, to us, and we joke about this sometimes. I know you've been watching the show for a little bit. We'll say like, $40 for a T-shirt. Are you crazy? But like, oh, 3 grand for a bus. Yeah, I'll take two. It's
Yeah,
like
and I'll drive
it's so
forever
Yeah.
to
skewed.
pick it up.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like yeah.
Steven, did you on your way back when you had this thing, were you worried? Like, were you concerned that it was gonna like crack and fall apart at some point, or you
So Chasen did a really good job giving me a big box with lots of padding,
good?
and it
Came in a
was
car seat.
Yeah,
it took
exactly.
up the entire back seat of
Yeah, it's
the
huge.
only car they had was a I don't know if it was a Corolla or a Camry.
Okay.
So
Oh
just
yeah, so
imagine a
and he's a big
box
boy.
about this big just taking up the whole back
Yeah.
seat.
Oh yeah. Sure.
And the road out of Vegas, I don't know if you've driven from Vegas to into Arizona, is rough.
Oh gosh.
It's like off-roading.
So it's just a highway that has it's in major need of repair. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that whole ride,
So
he's just like,
So you're
yeah,
just feeling every bump, every single bump it's happening. You're just like, oh shit.
well, yeah, it was about
pulling over
20
and checking
hours.
it, and
Gosh, what a nightmare.
20, 21 hours. But
That's
but yeah,
crazy.
I would not have gone to get it. I probably would have just been like, hey, screw it, ship it, or
Yeah.
waited
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
But like I said, I actually already had a hiking trip planned,
On the way.
and I
Yeah.
figured why not instead of just flying to Phoenix, I'll just detour flying to Vegas, and
Steven,
it's
you're
only a few
young.
extra hours.
You're
Yeah.
young. Your
Yeah.
back is fine. It can
Oh yeah,
handle a
yeah.
really long trip. So, why
A
not?
long
No,
drive.
dude, for anybody that isn't from the US, is from other parts of the world, i.e. Tony and Parminder and some of these, Nathan, some of these guys. Obviously, they probably know this already, but like we were just mentioning this before we got on here, is that like Texas is massive. It is.
Just the conversation
It's
recently with somebody.
It's so big, and to drive through there, especially if you live in South Texas and you're driving,
Yeah.
it's, oh my gosh, it takes forever. So you were probably in Texas most of quite a bit of that drive.
Well, so coming back, it's funny. You get through Arizona and New Mexico in like 8 hours,
Yeah,
right? And then I'm at the Texas border. You think, okay, cool, I'm home.
sure.
But
You're
but
almost
really,
there.
right? You're coming in through I want to say north of Lubbock, somewhere in that area.
Mhm.
And then I look at the maps and it's like 13 hours remaining,
Oh
12
my
hours remaining. It's
Wow.
like, oh shit.
It's incredible, man.
So
That is
I didn't
crazy.
do it in one day. I did about 14 hours in one day, and I called it a day somewhere in
Jeez.
some
Wow.
random town there.
Nice. That's the whole
Um,
Northeast you can drive through.
well, real quick, I would pick Salacious
Salacious,
Yeah.
yeah.
out of both of these.
Okay.
Only
But
because
Rancor, respectively, I can see why
it's
he chose
amazing.
it.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, yeah, and yeah, the experience, I get that, but dude, Salacious is it is a sight to behold, man. All the wrinkles, all the just all the little paint things that they added, and it's just, I mean, it's even like Jason. You remember when we opened this thing up,
Mhm.
and you open up the just the cylinder, like the block
The
he's
base,
sitting on,
yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
this looks like concrete. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know how they did this, but this looks like a piece of concrete, and it's just incredible. The whole thing is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I love that piece.
Yeah. And
Um,
Jabba's tattoo was a fun little addition to throw in at the end. That was a little
yeah.
last minute
Mhm.
ad, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so here's a closer look at some of the maquettes you have. So you got number 9 of Bib. And what's Jabba?
Man,
What is that? What happened there? What is that?
86. That one's smeared to hell.
I was gonna say, what happened to that?
I don't know what happened on that one. That plaque I'm not too proud of, but
That's funny.
It
Okay,
could have just been
so
like soil or heat that rubbed and
yeah,
yeah.
you never know.
something, yeah.
Yeah, and you said you said this guy is your favorite out of all
Of the
these.
maquettes, I think so. I think Bib and Klaatu and Max have the nicest paint, like just in
Mm,
terms of like being real vibrant.
yeah, color.
Um,
Really cool. And
and
you put
Reed
Jabba
is
on the base too, huh?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know a
that's
lot of
cool.
people have him, kind of like how he is in the archives, like just
Yeah,
flat, like on the table too.
flat.
But I mean, I got so many black bases on everything else. I felt like I had to have
Well,
some
it's really smart
consistency.
of Regal of Tom and Regal Robot to do that, to add
Yeah, for the cohesiveness of it all,
that
yeah.
as
Yeah.
that is an option because it looks great, man. It looks
I'm
really,
waiting
really
for them to do it to the Tauntaun. I don't know if they will. The
okay.
the Tauntaun maquette. I think
Mhm.
that'd be sweet to have an additional
Yeah.
option if you didn't want to do the snow, or maybe the snow on top of it. Something.
It's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. I love that Tauntaun.
It's cool.
Jason, anything you wanna talk about with the maquettes here?
No, I mean, just overall, they're amazing pieces.
Yeah, they really are.
It's great to see like how far Regal Robot, has come overall. Because
Mhm.
I remember we jumped on when I unboxed my job. I was the
Mm.
only one at the time, Steve, to have gotten one,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
really? You're
yeah,
kind of the first on for YouTube scene.
well, no, just like when we did in our like Rogue One Six's group
Our
when we
group,
did the
yeah.
Oh,
unboxing.
okay, okay.
Yeah, nobody else had any interest, and I had been sort of busting at the seams. I knew after the Tauntaun that this had been
Mhm.
coming. And it's sat for a bit. It's sat for a while.
Yeah,
A lot of people weren't interested. It was a very niche item, but also nobody realized that more work to come. Right? It was just this sort of like random release with the idea that like, okay, well, the Tauntaun is there, and then now you have Java X amount of time later, right? Year and a half later, and with that uncertainty of like, is this just a standalone piece or is this part of a set?
Mm, right.
Um, a lot of people didn't initially go for it. I had always liked it. I'd always enjoyed it. and it was something that I wanted in my collection. So once I knew that they were making this, I was like, yeah, this is a 100% feeling. And because there's actually two of these, not variations, variations. I think there's three or four, but this
Mhm.
jobber in particular, Phil had made one for himself because one
Yeah.
actually had gone up for auction not too long ago, about a decade ago. And
Mm.
when people were paying like 2 grand for this, I'm like, that isn't too far off from what they were the
Mm.
actual one sold for, which is
That's
kind of
crazy.
crazy, right? Yeah, but it just goes to show like how well they replicate these things. I mean, some of them are just when you look at some of the images, reference images, they are just spot on,
It's crazy.
down to like the every last drip and detail. But yeah, it's just great. Jobber, I think for me, I know he's not aesthetically appealing for a lot of people, but it's one of my favorite ones just because it's something that I don't know. When I used to watch that like grainy behind the scenes video, and they would walk by and they'd stop and talk about it, just for some reason always caught my attention. I don't know, and I always just correlated that with the Jabba we saw on screen. Um, the fact that he's not green, a little bit of a different color style, but still close. So yeah, I have a special place in my heart for the Java. But these
Yeah.
these are all amazing. And the Rancor, these pictures are a little deceiving, right? Because the Rancor is a little bit bigger than it looks there. It's a pretty robust piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
furthest
here he looks
away,
like he's
so
like 5 inches, but he's quite big.
he's almost as tall as the plaque next to him. But if I had to guess, I know you mentioned I wasn't around for I wasn't aware of Regal Robot when they first started doing these.
Hmm.
But if I had to guess, I think maybe Matt, you might share some of that sentiment still. Maybe people didn't understand exactly what this was. I know I didn't either. When I
Yeah.
first saw the Rancor, I'm like, well, that sort of looks like the Rancor, but it also kind of looks like the Kenner figure, right?
Right. Right.
And I think
Yeah.
it took some time for them to get some steam and
Yeah.
kind of as they
Well,
release these more pieces
Well,
for people to understand
we
what
used to
these
do a lot
pieces
of like what's the term, like consumer education, if you will,
yeah.
with the streams, and we would
yeah.
have Tom on
Well,
quite
Stephen,
often to discuss that. Yeah.
and Jason, just like what you're saying, we had the same. No, I mean, not look. There's a lot of people that that know what is going on with collecting, but there's a lot of people coming in that are new, that are just starting out,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. But there was some of that we had to do, even with people that, even with ourselves, even in cases like
Mhm.
RS, like some people don't realize RS helmets they're very
Like
light. They're
like
very light. They're
feeling
very they're like they were made in the movies,
yeah.
right? And just people don't kind of understand that. So they think they're getting a helmet that's like very robust and
Like a
very like,
Innovo's heavy and yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Fiberglass or something.
And so when they get it, they're like, what's going on here? So we had to do a lot of like talking about that and kind of,
Quite a bit, actually.
yeah,
It was a
helping people
lot
get an
of, like, rinse
understanding
and
of,
repeat of
yeah,
that.
why that is, why they do it that way, right?
Yeah,
And then once you appreciate that, once you appreciate what Tom is doing, it makes it so much better and so much more
Yeah.
special to have that piece, because of what you know about it and why it's what it is,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the first piece I actually got in. So the Rancor is the first piece I ordered. So
yeah,
what was that? October, probably going about a year now.
yeah,
mm.
The first one I got in was I want to say Nine Num. I got
okay,
off of eBay, and it looks so weird because I had
same.
a handful, maybe like one or two sideshow statues at the time, and it just looks so off having the sideshow, you know,
So, that's g
pieces
I was
next to
gonna say,
them
what
too.
were your first impressions? It's great to hear. Yeah. Um, so what did you think? So when you look at something like Sideshow, right, where all the paint applications are very mechanistic,
Yeah.
machine-like, perfect, the statue and the design is done very well in detail, and then you see this where you're just like, "Huh?" Did you kinda have that like, did you almost have, like, a little bit apprehension, or
Um,
were you sort of
so I think what helped is again that I have a little bit of a like a filmmaking background, so it clicked to me. I've been watching behind the scenes of making of movies for years.
Mhm.
So once I read a little bit more into the Rancor, that was the first piece that I got, and there was shit saying this is the first iteration. This is kind of a, a replication of a piece of history, right? Not just
Mhm.
like a statue, and it kind of just made sense. I never really thought about. I know some people even with Nine Num, they're like, why does the paint look like that on his ears? But I mean, that's how it is on the original maquette, right? So, if there's rough strokes because they were doing these things quick, that's just how it's going to look.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. It's not for everybody, definitely, but I think for what they are, I don't think there's anybody better out there than Regal to be making these pieces because they just get them spot on.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
by
if this
far, I
is
say it
something
all
that
the
you're
time,
into,
man.
man, like it's just um,
Yep.
there's really nothing better for that that category of pieces.
No, for sure. And I mean, Steven, you've heard me talk about this. I don't collect the concept
Yeah,
line because it's not my thing. It's not my, I just don't like, not that I don't like them. I think they look really good in collections.
yeah,
It's not my aesthetic. I don't want, so, but if you do like that kind of thing, I mean, obviously Regal's that's the
that's
only
it.
game in town that's doing that. I mean,
Yeah,
and they do it so well every single time they put out a new one. It's exactly like you would see it. I mean, it's great. They do killer work.
and there's something for everyone too. Obviously, the Maquettes are a lot more affordable than some of their other
Of
pieces,
course.
but
Yeah.
but if you're somebody who just likes, I want it to look like how it looks in the movie. Then they got their Tuscan and their
Mhm.
Rancor and Salacious
Yep.
Chewie, these other pieces that are,
Yep.
uh, screen accurate, if you want to call it that.
And
I
more
do like that
expensive.
you mentioned the airs when you first saw it because I remember seeing not just with Num, but a few of them. People would be like, "Hey, is this supposed to be this way? Is this
Mm.
Yeah,
supposed to look this way?" And you would get a lot of those questions, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, right? I think when somebody gets that little bit of curiosity and sort of, oh no, and then you learn, oh, that's the way it's supposed to look, and then they kind of come down from that like worry. I think it sort of triggers people into like doing more research,
Yeah.
and then
yeah,
the more you learn and understand, I think the more you appreciate the piece because you're just like, wow, this is who did this, and this
Right.
is why and the how, and this is how it made it into the film, and yeah, when you start putting all those going down that rabbit hole, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, it makes it that much more fun and interesting.
for
That's
sure. I
that's
think
true.
for anybody who's into the Regal pieces, if you haven't seen from Star Wars: The Jedi, it's like a 40-minute documentary on YouTube. Stop what you're doing and go watch it now, and
Mm.
it'll really give you a lot of background on how they made all these things.
Oh,
So
perfect, man. I'm glad you mentioned that. I would have never even thought of that. That's yeah,
yeah,
he's right. If you haven't seen it, definitely 100%. Um, nice. That was a nice little plug.
yeah. I
Killer.
think there's two documentaries, but I think that one has a little bit more on the maquette side.
Well, Disney's done even some recent ILM stuff that's great to watch too. I can't remember what the series was or what do you remember what it was,
I
Jason, that they
can't
did?
remember the name of it, and they're doing a season 2 that they're
Yeah.
wrapping up now.
Yeah, they're doing
Yeah.
it.
Oh, that's right. I think was it Joe Johnston was apparently filming.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be in this next
Yeah,
iteration.
it's pretty cool. Let's move on to the holochess set. Another fantastic set. Is this
Hmm.
number 1?
So I did not get the signature version because that's a little bit too rich for my blood.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Right. I got the holo chest, the body slam. That was
Oh, okay,
the that
gotcha.
was
Yep.
that was number one.
Yep.
I had the other plaques, and I figured like I'm not like a big snob for numbers, but that's the only piece I have that's number one, and
It's
I
crazy.
figured
That's
I'm just
cool.
gonna put that plaque and leave the rest as is.
Yeah, so you bought the other ones individually or in the sets, in the
They're
separate
like
sets?
two
Is that
packs, right?
Yeah. So Zach Botto, I think he's in some of the groups too, and
okay?
he sold
Oh,
me
he's a good guy. I
yeah,
like
he
that.
sold me the other sets. So
Oh,
I had
killer.
the
Okay.
whole just the body slam, and he just sold me the other ones
Oh, that's
altogether.
cool.
So
That's cool. I mean, it's another killer set, man. It's really good. You're missing a couple, right? Because the full set has what, two that are extra, aren't there?
The
there's
little
there's
a
one
single eyeball one.
Yeah.
there's one unused, right? That was the one they didn't use in the film.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
isn't there two, or maybe just one? I
I
can't
think
remember.
there's another one of that. I can't remember his name. I'm not that much of a nerd, apparently.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the dude
There's
that's
one
about
other
to get
green guy.
slammed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite one out of this is this guy right here. When you see him close up, you see all the variations of color, like
Yeah.
the purple and the blue and all this. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, it's a
I had a
great,
lot of fun
it's a great.
photographing those not too long ago. It was cool getting all the colors and everything to pop.
That's so cool, dude. And all the not only that, but all the texture.
The
Like
texture,
this
yeah.
guy has a ton of texture in him. Um, and then all the leather on this guy. it's a great set. It's a
Yeah.
great set.
Yeah,
Really.
I had thankfully and gratefully to Tom and Rob and the whole team at Regal Robot, but had a great opportunity to see these sort of in the work in progress phase, and
Mhm.
got to sort of watch how, because I think sometimes, although we see how amazing these pieces look as a final product, right? And everybody, knows that stuff is top tier and beautiful, but I think we sometimes take for granted or overlook the progress that it takes to get there. And
Yeah.
watching them sort of iron out some of the details, especially like, again, I don't know these guys off the top of my head by name, but the bone looking guy, right? Holding the stick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The details on trying to get that complete and proper, and to do so in a way that wasn't going to be like in two pieces or three pieces that you have to assemble, and watching them sort of figure all that out and go through that process in of itself is interesting. And then, seeing some of the original screen use pieces, and lineage pieces next to it for references. Yeah, it's just amazing. But yeah, some of even like the Rancor. I mean, the Rancor for what it is. I mean, just the hand comes off. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in one full piece in its entirety, which that's for most of the companies. I mean, you'd be putting them together
Mhm.
for that pose, which is amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
And they got the seam covered real well with the
yeah. With
little
the that
chain,
was the
the
best part.
bracelet and
The
the chain.
bracelet
Yes,
goes
can't
right
see
over
it at
you. Don't
all.
even. Yeah, that's a beautiful pick right there.
Oh, you're
Love
using
it.
another one of those lights. That's cool.
Yeah, so I got those are kind of just suction cup to the top there.
Yeah. Hmm.
So there's two in that case there, and then the two on the top lighting up Chewie.
Are they battery powered or are they
They're
just
wired. They're
they're wired?
wired, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're the Philips Hue stuff. So all this stuff is all
Yeah.
smart bulbs, so I can turn it on and turn it
Turn it
off
on
or
and off
change colors and whatnot.
all at once. That's really cool. I like that. I gotta figure my shit out, man. I got most of my shelves lit well with just like from the light switch it comes on, but
Yeah,
the top shelves are just like I said, just a black hole. So I gotta figure that out. But this is another great pick of all the detail and all the just the textures and it's just man, it's killer. What they did with this set's fantastic. Okay, here's a little bit closer look at the Rancor, and then how do you like the Tuscan?
I actually really like it. That was one I was kind of on the
I
fence
love the
on for a while.
Tuscan.
I got that one below retail actually.
Okay, killer.
Nice.
I picked up that one used early this year,
Mhm.
and I was not expecting to be as big as it is. I don't think
It's
people
big.
realize how big the freaking Tuscan is.
It's
But I
big.
guess I mean this stuff had to wrap around
Mhm.
somebody,
Mhm.
So it's a
And
big
they're
deal.
all different. Like I think there was a big conversation when this first came out
Yeah,
about like, is this doesn't look like a
this
Tuscan
isn't
Raider. The head
accurate. This
isn't
isn't.
accurate and all this stuff. And it's
Yeah,
like once you start to actually delve into it, like look into it, you start to realize that they're all different. They all had a
Yeah,
different way of like the
I
helmet
think
fitting and
I
all that.
think with that, Matt, right? I think for most people watching Star Wars, we're all used to the repeat,
Yeah,
that
totally. Yeah.
gentleman.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
So that's initially what comes to mind. Or if you're
Mhm.
looking at an image, that's the image you're seeing. Yeah, and I think even at one time, Tom had a post, an
Right.
image of the reference that they use,
Yep.
and just spot on as usual, right?
Yeah.
Not that they need any defense on that, but yeah, there was some discussion of something looks off, it doesn't look quite accurate, but you
Mhm,
have to
mhm.
realize, there was a handful of Tuscan Raiders, so or even Jawas, right? So there's going to be variations, small and sometimes large, in between them. But I think this one was, again, as you said, Stephen, a little bit misleading, right? You don't really understand the size of it until it's in hand.
yeah.
Because sometimes the pictures, you look at a
Start
picture and you're like, oh, okay, that's about yay big. And then you have it in hand, you're like, oh, this is as you mentioned, a full grown human with wraps and other effects stuck on the head. So, yeah, it's quite a robust piece, but I think it's a beautiful piece. And I like the color theme, how well it matches with the Rancor,
Yeah.
the hues and the browns and such. Yeah.
I
And
I Oh, go ahead,
yeah,
Steven. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I'm pretty careful about making sure whatever I get is gonna fit for the most part.
Good.
Hmm.
Uh, I know a lot of people will hit order and they'll think about it later.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Right? But so I'll go ahead and I measured everything out because they Regal's pretty good about providing all the dimensions and whatnot on their
Mhm.
website before you order anything.
Yeah.
And even then, seeing it here, you're like okay, it's gonna be 30 something inches or whatever.
Mhm.
And but you can't really see it until you have it there in person and see the full, 3-dimensional depth of it. Then you're like, oh shoot, this thing is big.
It's crazy, yeah. It's crazy. One little small detail that I like about the Rancor, by the way, is that he's sitting on these little felt
Oh yeah,
things. I actually like that he's doing that so that it's not like, the piece is like right on top of this piece of wood necessarily. Like it's nice that they put that in there.
I think the small Rancor is like that too, if I'm not mistaken. They
It
have
sits on
little
top of it,
felt
yeah.
pad. Yeah,
Yeah.
How's that for attention to detail?
I know. I
yeah.
don't know
love
why, but I like that they did that. It's nice. That and like the nails, like the nails are all gritty. It's just so good, dude. It's such a well done piece. It's crazy.
That's so funny. I ended up with yours.
Yeah. This used to be mine. Just so if
Cool.
anybody knows, it's such a good piece, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, I could be biased, but I think I had one of the best ones out there because it was just so good. Like if you look at the back of them, like
Yeah, we scrutinized it. Yours was
yeah,
you
mine was-
definitely had
mine was
one of
killer.
the, like a
Eyeballs on it.
perfect one. So one thing that people were noticing as we were talking about paint applications, so when these started shipping, some people were like, well, I don't understand why he's all brown, but then his tail is bone
Mhm.
color. It's white, right?
Yeah.
And that's accurate. But some of them were a little less white, a little bit darker, a little
Mm.
brown. I mean, these are, keep in mind too, these
Handmade.
aren't coming off a factory belt and off a machine. These are being handmade in house. So you're gonna again see variations, and that's the thing. Sometimes people even compare and contrast one to the. I saw this one and that doesn't look
Mhm.
correct, and
Mhm.
like I promise you it's correct. But we would kind of tease Matt because Matt's very, as much as he appreciates these things, he's very much like, I like the piece, I have it. He's not looking at the finer details,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not necessarily. So I'm like comparing images and pulling up ILM images and books, and I'm looking at this, and I'm using,
Yeah.
I'll take a picture, I'll pinch and zoom and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is this, and he's like, yeah, and because of that, every time I'm like, man, you got the best version of this, you got the best paint application
I
on
got a
that.
really
And-
good version of the Boba Fett RS Boba Fett helmet too.
oh yeah, yours was just like
Freaking fantastic.
That's a nice piece,
didn't
man.
miss a beat.
So nice.
So you got your helmets on the other side, right? Out of
I
camera.
actually have them. I think you can see.
I see a stormtrooper, I think. Okay. Oh, there
Yeah.
we go. Now I see Boba.
Yeah, that's the
Cool.
Boba Fett. That's the HDP Stormtrooper. I've sold a couple helmets here and there, but I still have quite a few. And I just, man, I love helmets. They're just, I feel like helmets, especially in your collection too, they would display really nice with other
Yeah.
things. They just,
Yeah.
man, it's just so cool. I love the helmets. And you gotta, like you said, you have a couple coming in that are fantastic. I mean, you'll love them. And once you get your hands on an RS helmet, dude, I'm telling you, man,
It's like Regal Robot.
you're gonna want
Yeah.
more.
You just don't go back, especially
you're
with
gonna
an
want
AT-AT. Like you're getting an AT-AT helmet.
I
That's the
know,
wrong
dude.
piece to get if you don't want to get into helmets.
I know, bro. Because this HTP Stormtrooper helmet, it's so good, dude. It's so good. And every time I look at that thing, man, oh, it's so good, and it just displays so well with the other things. I love it. But yeah, obviously you. So here's a cool question, Steven. Do you feel like you're a like Regal Robot collector? Like, I mean, you've got a lot of Regal Robot pieces, and you're kind of heading in that
Yeah.
direction. I know you're going to probably pick up other things
Yeah.
as well,
A
but
handful here and there. That's a loaded question, but
it is.
no,
It kind of is.
at this point, I'd say yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Not necessarily every piece for sure.
You're not
I
going to
like,
pick up everything.
yeah, I
that
like
come
your
in.
Indiana Jones stuff,
Do
but
you have that stuff, or you?
I got the Sankara stone and the Grail, and that's it.
Okay.
Did you get Jar Jar?
I did get Jar Jar.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I did get Jar Jar. That's kind of Jar Jar is funnily enough what kind of broke my rule of the legacy editions. So
Okay.
I was
Okay.
like, I'm just gonna get signature editions for everything. I had already gotten it for the Rancor because that was my first piece. I didn't know what to expect, right? So, I give it a shot there. And the Wampa, I figured, okay, I'll just do bigger pieces will be the legacy stuff.
Mhm.
And then the Jar Jar one came around, and I know that's a kind of a controversial character for a lot of people.
I love Jar Jar.
But I mean, growing up, with the prequels also,
Mhm.
it didn't bother me. But once I saw that sketch, man, like the Tony McVeigh sketches were crazy.
Yeah.
Plus,
They
the
had some
maquette
really nice,
itself is
colorful.
beautiful.
The
The
maquette,
maquette,
it's awesome.
the paint's amazing on the maquette. It's got probably one of the best paint jobs that I've seen.
That's awesome.
out of these maquette line. So,
Steven, real quick. No, I mean it's a little off topic, but what's your favorite Star Wars film? Give me your top 3.
top 3, I want to be basic and say Empire, but I'm gonna say Jedi.
Okay,
Nice.
yep.
That's mine.
I'll say Jedi, Empire, and then probably Revenge of the Sith, just because that's the first movie I saw
Yeah,
in
sure.
theaters. So
That's good.
Nice.
again,
So,
kind of basic answers, but
yeah, you're I mean mine's Return of the Jedi, Empire, and then Rogue One. Big
I
fan
did
of
like Rogue One. I did like Rogue One.
Freaking love Rogue One.
You know, I've tried to, I'm not as much of a sequel hater as a lot of people,
Yeah, I'm not either.
but I'm also not a rewatcher of them. I'll rewatch the original
Yeah, I'm not
trilogy
either.
all the time, but
I'm the same way. I'm the same
but
way.
yeah, I don't think I've rewatched them since they come in the theaters. Maybe once.
I've rewatched them and I still do, but I have a tough time with the last 2 I have a tough time with. I can't rewatch them I actually really like
Force
Awakens.
Awakens.
yes,
Yeah,
Force
I like
Awakens.
that as well.
I'm
Yeah.
actually quite a fan of that movie. It's just after that
Yeah.
anyway.
We all know.
Rogue
yeah,
One is one that I've rewatched Rogue One quite a few times.
I love Rogue One. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love it.
I think Solo was, interesting.
So it
And
was
obviously,
decent.
Yeah, I like
obviously
Solo.
it didn't do well, but I felt like, that was a nice break from the whole Skywalker
I like Solo.
Yeah, I've
saga.
rewatched Solo as
I
well.
rewatched Solo as well, yeah. I honestly wish they were still going to do stuff with him. Yeah, Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah.
I wish they would have kept going with that. I don't know. I was a fan. But anyway, here's a closer look. This is a beautiful image of Salacious. You get a really good feeling of like all the little wrinkles and the spots on his belly and just like all the crazy detail, man. It's so good. Such a good shot too. I actually like that art, the pics behind it too. Is this
Yeah.
what is this actually this is signed, yeah?
Yeah, so I got Harrison Ford on the left, and then James Earl Jones and Dave Prowse on the right. I'm not a big autograph collector, but I did like those photos. So
Freaking killer, dude.
Yeah, they're great photos. So to have the autographs with them, yeah, it's a good different. They display well too.
Looks great in the shots too. Okay, so here you got CZ3, Chewbacca, and then so what do you think about this CZ3 here? How do you like him?
So CZ is kind of a, I'm not gonna say controversial piece, but he's an out there piece. You
He's
gotta
a weird
be
looking piece, dude.
you gotta be
He's a
really
love hate. He's a love hate. Yeah.
And there's some times where I've the Philips Hue lights are kind of finicky sometimes. I've come in at night and the freaking only light on is the damn underlight on CZ, so you just see this glow coming up on him, and
Dude,
he looks nasty, but he's
he's
cool though.
such a weird, especially when you see it in when you actually see it in your collection. It's such a weird piece.
It's
It's
weird.
such a weird piece, man.
It's cool. It's very regal. I'll put it that way. It's very Regal Robot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The more that y'all are, these, people get familiar with the stuff they do. They do a lot of out there stuff, and if you're into that kind of thing, it's really cool because no one
So
else is
cool.
going to do it.
It's so cool, and it's this is another cool detail where they filled in some of these and some of
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? They
like
just
dirt
the
and
attention
things.
to
Yeah,
detail on this stuff is just
he's hard to photograph. I tried taking some photos of him maybe a month or two ago, and he's tough just because he's all white, so the light
yeah.
just washes out a lot of the
Plus,
weathering that they
his
did.
proportions are very unique, so it's also hard to catch that with the all white.
It's like taking a
Yeah,
picture of a clown that's a robot. It's crazy.
yeah,
Freaking
Yeah.
weird, man.
But this is one I feel like CZ3 for me was one of those pieces where I don't know, it's like you get it and you're like, this is interesting. I'm not sure, but then the idea of like not having it is just like, but he's so unique. It's so different.
It's so unique.
It's just yeah, it's a really really interesting piece. And I think at the time too, which probably wasn't easy for them. We had discussed it. I think with Tom, hey, can I get mine a little bit extra weathered because they had the first 15 with the black oil drip.
yeah.
And then I think we kind of drove them a little crazy and got a little extra weathering. I know mine was a little heavy-handed on the weathering. It wasn't something that they were technically doing, but I think it was
Yeah,
kind of like, all right, like I mean, they have the ability, right? They're making them in house. They're doing it by hand. So it's like, all right, well, we'll throw a little bit extra because he's if you look at him on Tatooine, he's quite grimy. You know, he's got
Yeah.
a lot of build up on him, and
Yeah, he is.
so yeah,
Sand and rust and everything.
yeah.
Do
And
you
I,
have
I
the
like how they brought down the sort of, a little bit of the chest part instead of just kind of cutting it off.
No, it looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way they did it. Do you have the antenna on this guy?
I have him separate. I don't remember why. You know what it was? I took it off because I thought about putting him in my cabinet in the other room,
Yeah,
and I
okay.
think I just forgot to put him back on.
Dude,
But
honestly, the antenna, that's one of those really hard things to display with this guy because it's
it's
like
like
pretty
a
high.
stick. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
comes out
it's
pretty high. It's a cool thing to add when you can watch. Obviously you can, but
Yeah.
I've had I had issues trying to display him with that because it's just hard to
It's
hard to
long.
make
It
it.
adds like a good foot almost or 10 inches
Mhm.
on top of his head. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, here, cool. Here's a closer
yeah,
look at
there's a
the
Rancor. The other one.
this is cool, dude. Yeah, he does look really
He's got
interesting.
it.
Is just actual paint?
it's
Yeah, so
purple.
there's purple on there and there's a little bit of green on his back too.
Yeah, I see the green here.
There's a I actually, some people might not agree with me. I don't know about y'all, but I actually prefer the kinda the how they could be more fun with the paint on the maquette versus
Mm,
Yeah.
obviously I like the
mhm.
puppet better, but I like the paint job. I think it's cool that they could kinda mess around with different colors other than just brown.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think
That's a small detail I didn't realize was there.
I
That's
think a
cool.
lot just didn't transfer because depending on the scene, how dark or how well it was lit, and you two probably know better than I do, but
Mhm,
at least with the models, a lot of times people will get a reference image of a model, right? Like a Y-wing or
Mhm.
an X-wing, and they'll paint it as is, and then they'll get some scrutiny like that's too dark, that's too weathered. It's like, well,
Yeah.
technically it is accurate. However, you know, when it's a little bit more properly washed out on the stage lighting, you lose a lot of that. So they
well,
went a
dude,
little more heavy-handed. And I
perfect.
think when you have little elements of green and purple, you sort of lose that during the shooting and production.
Well,
So I think that
Jason, a good example of that is like Han Solo's jacket,
yeah.
right?
Or
Like
even the
Mm.
probe droid. Everybody, is it brown?
right.
Is it, everybody thinks it's black, and then we get it introduced to us as black via the toys and such, but
Mhm.
it's
Exactly.
actually like a rustic brownish gray,
Yeah,
gunmetal.
Oh,
you
is
don't
it?
know until you and
Yeah, it's got more brown
right.
in it. It's got
Mm.
like a gunmetal with a very heavy brown color,
And
like a
that
Yeah.
bronze color.
obviously that has to do with, like, what film they use, like, the lenses, the time of day they were shooting, or night, or
Oh, yeah, just everything, yeah.
lighting, just
Whatever.
everything,
Yeah.
everything.
But you're
I
right,
think
the
that's
maquettes give that you get to see the true element.
It's really cool.
I think that's what's cool about, Regal having, being licensed and having access to go in and see the actual piece,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of room for interpretation if you're looking at, it from a 45-year-old movie and trying to see, like, how does this look on this film stock and,
You're right, yeah.
really bad quality reference images, but they can go in and
Yeah.
see the real thing and
Versus
photograph it
literally
themselves.
looking at it, pinpointing all the details and
Well,
colors, matching them.
scanning it, taking all, like, the close-up shots and all that
Yeah,
stuff's really,
matching the Pantone colors and such, yeah.
really cool. Yeah, that's neat.
You know,
Okay, so here's a little something
r
different. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
I was gonna say real quick, I just with the Maquettes when he had mentioned, like, going into the archives and such. So, is this used to frustrate me the most with Hot Toys, right? Because Hot Toys would release a figure corresponding with the respective movie at the time when the movie's hot, right?
Yep.
But then you don't get it for 2.5 years later.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And by that time, the movie's old news, 5 other things had come out, and it's like, if Tom and Co. can go look to the archives, you know, paint, match paint swatches and Pantones and colors and scans and do all this research and R&D, then figure out how to, interpretate that into an actual piece and get it all done in less than, X amount of time
Right.
compared to like a mass manufactured piece. They used to frustrate me sometimes. It's like, look what can be done by hand
Yeah.
versus like,
Sure.
but the turnaround time sometimes on these are quite amazing, especially with the level of quality. Um, yeah, so that was just a quick note I was making, with the amount of detail like that finds its way into these maquettes.
Yeah, that's cool. Here's some books.
These are pretty recent, actually. I got, these books from can't remember the name. I'd have to look it up, but, from another person there on Facebook, he was selling
Mm,
some books pretty cheap, so I already had,
the Taschen stuff's
from
awesome.
Star Wars Indiana Jones, I think was the first book that I got, so I got
Mhm.
a couple, but, the Archives book's awesome.
Yeah, the archives book's great. The Sculpting a Galaxy is
It's cool.
It's kind of a hit or miss, right? Because for models is the Chronicles, and that's the
Mhm.
Bible because it's
I
just such
see.
an amazing book. Yeah, it's phenomenal. But Sculpting a Galaxy is a fun little look into some behind the scenes shots and peeks at, it's got that great Slave One undershot in it, and Lauren did a great job. I have the collector's edition of this where it came with some Death Star tiles and a forward by
Mhm.
Lauren
Mm,
who signed it and such. But
mhm.
yeah, the books are one of those things where I was surprised these guys early on. I was like, "Hey, like, check out this book and that book," and they're like, "Well, we don't have them." I'd be like, "Oh, turn to this page." Like, we don't have them. I'm like, "You don't have like, the costume book is an
Yeah.
amazing one,
Yeah, it's a good book.
such an amazing. Oh my god, there's just a wealth of info in that one. The Macquarie books. I mean, the books are a whole nother thing because again, they correlate respectively with the collection. Because then you start to flip through and you get
Mhm.
to, oh, this is how this piece looked. This is the story behind it, if and when that's shared. But nice how you have this on display, and again, nice clean cut look too. I like that.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Appreciate it.
Um, are you planning, Steven, on getting
I
more
think
Star
so.
Wars books too?
Probably some more related to the Maquette line. So if you guys have any suggestions, definitely
Yeah.
that's something I need to look into. But it's cool looking at I took a photo a while back when I got Bib in, and I was open the from Star Wars Indiana Jones. There's a photo of a bunch of the maquettes there, not all of them, but a good
Mhm.
amount of them.
Yeah, it's a great book
And
too. It's got some decent shots.
yeah, I was just looking at Bib and looking at the maquette, back and forth with the book of the real one. I'm like, man, it's crazy. It literally looks like it ripped it out of the page
It's
and just
crazy.
like stuck on the
Yeah.
shelf.
Yeah, it's really cool. And this is cool too. This is a great image as well, but tell us about this little area here.
Yeah, so those are I just felt they were fitting. I mean, you got the classic, maquette shot in the front of the
Mhm.
Smithsonian
Mhm.
magazine, and then something interesting about Return of the Jedi is the Time article one. They're suggesting almost like that was it. I don't know if you all can kind of shed some light on that. Did you all feel, uh, Jedi was gonna be the last movie?
I mean, I was born right around the time Jedi was in the theaters. That was the movie I grew
Okay,
up with.
so by
Um,
the time that you kind of were thinking about this stuff, it was already probably gearing up for Phantom Menace.
yeah, I mean, we did hear like through, magazine articles and, the different type of, I forget the names, Starlog and movie, all the different magazines they said
Mhm,
back then in the 80s. But initially there was rumors of George wanting to do 12 movies and, some of the things you hear today and some of the YouTube videos and such that there was some truth to that, how he
mhm,
would have finished them off and added to them. And I remember I was a teenager when the prequels came out, and that was like you almost didn't trust the news at first, right? Because
hmm.
the internet was, I mean, I think we were on like AOL dial-up back then, so it wasn't
Yeah,
like
probably.
information was exchanging hands at the speed it did today.
Yeah,
Um, you had to go and buy zines and go to your local bookstore or, record shop or whatever and get the info that way. Even chat rooms are very crude and rudimentary the way they were set up.
mhm,
So you would the other thing too is like the sources that you read from were quote unquote trusted sources, right? Fake news wasn't a thing. So if somebody said in magazine A or magazine B that, oh, there's going to be 12 movies or there's going to be 6 movies, there's going to be 3 more coming, you took that, at face value, like, oh, this is concrete, this is going to happen. And then there was even one point I remember George saying, like, these movies will never in my lifetime ever be transferred to DVD and or
Mhm.
Blu-ray. They're always going
mm,
to remain on VHS. And again, that's a true backstory. There's many articles to back it up, and he was very adamant about that. And but back then you think you're thinking in present time. You're not thinking of the future, right? You're not thinking that like streaming is going to be a thing, right? That
yeah,
things are just going to sort of come from the cloud and not be a tangible item. So the idea for him to say that, back then, and you think about it now, it's almost laughable. Um, so I was expecting other movies, but then when the
mhm,
rumors started rumbling, I remember I was a little bit older at that point. I was probably about 15, 16 when Phantom Menace was getting ready to come out. And then when it finally happened, it happened. It was like, wow. So when that happened, I was like, oh, now there is a chance of it continuing and
Yeah,
going
more.
further. But again, as a fan, it's different, right? You're like this. Oh, I hope it's gonna,
yeah, gonna happen.
a regular person's probably like, oh yeah, I heard that there might be, but when you're a fan, you're just like, when are those next movies coming? Yeah, so when the prequels came out, it was a big deal. I mean, I remember waiting online for a couple days to get tickets. Me and my friends are switching off, and
Yeah, yeah.
we skip school and everything to like wait in line. Like that's how you got to do it, dude. You got to buy them that
Yeah,
way. It's crazy. Wow.
Dude, look at all of the maquettes
dude. I know there's so many,
that
man.
he hasn't made yet.
I think, man, if I had to guess, and I don't have any sort of inside information, but if I had to guess, I think Akbar is coming for sure. I know they're gonna do the standing Gamorrean at some point.
This
Um,
guy's freaking awesome. Look at this guy, dude.
Dude, he looks
He's
cool. I like that apple slug there in the
freaking
green.
awesome,
He looks
dude.
like he's from Ghostbusters or something.
This one,
He does, yeah. You get a little
Yeah,
Slimer vibe to him.
yeah.
Jason.
So
Do you think Regal will eventually make all these suckers?
Yeah, I mean,
I
why
don't see
not?
why they wouldn't.
Look at the little alien guy. Look at the little ET's homie
Oh, this
next
guy,
to the
yeah, yeah.
Gamorrean.
Over
Yeah.
here.
I think
Dude,
that the
that
only
Gamorrean's sick, dude. I mean,
the
that's
standing one's cool.
the
Didn't you
standing
get the
one
little Klingon behind the
so
green
far.
guy in front of a man?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with
I
this
I
guy.
he
Yeah.
reminds me of the like the Nosferatu kind of like
Oh, he
vampire,
does. He does have
you
that
know,
Mhm.
Nosferatu look. Yeah.
little bit.
This one's
Um,
cool too.
I'd love to see all of them. I don't know where the hell I'm gonna put all of them, but they come out with them. But I think a Man is tough. I know Ian's been asking for it in the Regal group for like I don't know how long now, but that one might be hard just with the arms look like they would just snap and shipping.
Well,
Yeah,
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 he's big. He's a big piece.
big. Yeah.
Fragile. The staff is quite large, as you can see. I mean, obviously, perception on this is difficult, but like if
Mhm.
you compare him to how big the Rancor is, look at the staff in general,
Yeah.
which supersedes a
Mhm.
Man who's already big maquette. But yeah, the logistics on that, like if
I don't know
anybody
how
can
they're
work
gonna
it
do
out,
it.
yeah, if anybody can work it out, it's definitely the Regal Robot team. But it would be amazing to see that. I know a lot of people would be very, very happy to see that.
Well, look,
Well,
count how many that are here that they've done.
they've got let's
This
see, they got
one,
the Rancor.
the Tauntaun head.
Okay, there we go. That's one of them, right? Two. Max is there.
That's
Man,
it.
yeah, they really haven't touched it.
That's what I'm
If you
saying, dude. They have so many they can make. It's crazy.
if you look at that Star Wars: The Jedi book, they've crossed off a good amount on that page. So I picked up some of these books just to kind of look at it and be like, I wonder what they're gonna do next. And
Yeah, yeah,
I was
Nice
I
little
was flipping
checklist.
through the what is it the newer book I got from Testion, and I randomly landed on the Empire of the Space Slug. I'm like, man, like I'm so stupid. I bet I would have if I would have seen this, I would have been like, I bet they're gonna do a Space Slug next.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
Is this Jason? Is this guy the one that they added to
He was in
the
the special edition.
special
Yeah.
edition? Right? He's a special
Yeah,
edition
they
guy.
made him the singer, but originally he's holding it's missing in that picture, but he's actually the maquette's actually holding a big gun, big rifle.
Oh,
was
really?
didn't they have he looks real similar to one of the ones in Star Wars: The Jedi. I don't know who was working on it, but he looks real similar to one that they had like along the wall. I don't know if he came out at all, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Jeez, man, Regal's going to make so many people poor and make so much money making all of these things. Holy shit.
But what a
Definitely.
great but what a niche, amazing
Well,
There's a lot of
collectible.
that's what I'm saying. Like I've seen so Steven, I've seen people like you display the way you did where you kind of separate them and it looks really nice. I've also seen people kind of do more like of this type of situation
like
where they
art
put
cutter.
them they put them together and both of
Both
the
look cool.
ways look very
Yeah.
good. They look great. They look really, really good.
I think this looks great, but I think you can appreciate them more when they have room to breathe.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes. I got a lot more cubes. All those bins are for the most part empty. So
The bottom
yeah.
ones. Yeah, yeah.
So I got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe I got another 12 or 12 spots or so if they're small.
True
Um,
collector counting the empty
yeah,
Yeah.
spaces.
already. And thankfully, the good thing about the maquettes, I mean, once you get into it, like I have, you kind of feel like you have to have all of them. But
Yeah.
thankfully, each piece is relatively small. They're not like quarter scale statues or
Right.
something that are freaking
Yeah,
And you
imagine
could
taking up
taking
a
up
lot of
a
room.
2 foot by 3 foot. Yeah.
yeah, but Steven, you could double up in some of those cubes.
I could, I think
And
so, if
it
I
would
needed
still look
to.
really good. It would still look really nice. I mean that's a while before you have to worry about that. But okay,
Yeah,
so
This
this
is
is
a
a
beautiful
different
set.
section,
yeah.
Steven, right? This is a bookcase. This looks great too. I mean, this is like, so this is more of a case that closes, the doors open and close. Yeah.
Yeah, these are like glass doors that
Yeah.
are on them. Yeah, that's just the cheap like IKEA setup,
It looks great though,
Yeah, but
dude.
they
but
look so
works pretty
good.
good.
Yeah, they look really nice. And then, okay, so here's where you have Jar Jar.
Yeah, I felt he was he needed his own
Looks
area. So
fantastic. Number 13. Good sketch too. I like that.
yeah,
Um, and then what do you feel about this guy? You love him?
dude, he's cool, man. I know. It's weird too because I have the other Womp on order,
Yeah.
but this one, if you haven't seen him in person, he reminds me of the Rancor and Salacious, where you can't really appreciate him fully until you see all the details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got him in, I pulled him out of the box, and I was like, oh man, this is freaking sick. And you turn it up, you look inside the mouth, you're trying to see like uh, where the back is, and it just falls into darkness. You see teeth all the way into the back, detail all the
Yeah.
way into the roof of the mouth. So um, it's crazy the detail they put in that. I really don't know
Bro,
how they did it.
I feel like you got the Phil Tippett wants to go to lunch and he's got to do a quick sketch.
That one's rough. A little well, you know what it is.
I love it, dude.
It's got that circle in there, so you can kind of see
Yeah.
where he sketched out the oval first,
And then
used it as a guide, and did it.
Mhm.
But I think it's cool,
Which is cool. That is cool.
it reminds me of like the the comic style drawing or things like
Dude,
that. Or storyboard, like they have a cool look to them.
Yeah, it's a very storyboard.
Any of these, like they did it. So like
Yeah.
that's the cool part about it, right? Like Phil Tippett actually drew that. That's freaking cool. That's so funny. Yeah, we were talking about this, Jason. I don't know if it was the last stream we did with Tony and those guys, Tony and Perminder and Nathan.
Yeah.
Then I think it was there where we were talking about how the different art, how different all the art is across all the different maquette line like pieces.
Yeah, based on if it's like Ralston.
Yeah, and some of them are really, really cool looking. Like the Gamorrean looks really neat. What was the one that CC brought up? That the one that's all marker.
I think that was Ken Ralston. That was
Ken, yeah.
what was it?
Klaatu?
Klaatu, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know why I had a brain fart.
Yeah, it's cool that everyone kind of does their own style of.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like.
And even Tony with the Jar Jar, all of those look amazing too.
They're all different.
Yeah,
A lot of people hate on the Phil sketches. I get it, because compared to some of the other ILM guys that are doing these full color sketches, as an art piece, maybe some of those other ones look more attractive.
Yeah,
but I do like the storyboard kind of feeling of Phil, so it's cool.
But that's how Phil worked. Like if you look at original reference to like the Tauntaun, you see him like kind of putting it in position and how it would look with like a leg up, leg down, sequential, and that's how he's drawing him. He's drawing them in sequence, and that gives its own sort of feel and vibe, which I like.
Yeah, it's cool. I'd love to put a storyboard from like a Tauntaun sequence or something behind the Tauntaun bus and the maquette. I think
because that's a fantastic display right there.
Dude, they look so good together. All that, like we talked about this when we first saw the maquette, little maquette lines come out, saying that with the actual like full on, wasn't this the first one that he did in this line, Jason? Right,
one of the first Regal Robot pieces to be released,
right?
Ever, yeah.
Yeah. And for the longest time, Steven, nobody picked this thing up.
That's what I heard.
It's sat for years. It's sat for years.
Because everyone looked at it and it's like, what is this thing? Like if they had come out with this concept line earlier, this maquette would make a hell of a lot more sense to people, but they didn't have any reference. They had no idea of
even our former co-host originally owned it, sold it. He's like, oh, it's just like a piece of plastic and primer.
Yep.
Yeah, sold it and then ended up rebuying it back. But yeah, confused. And that's what we got into doing a lot of those shows on like Lineage and showing the original reference and sort of, the education aspect, which was fun for us too. It was enjoyable because the things that we didn't know, we were learning as well in the process. But I think the way these pair together, especially to like, it's that much more, you can appreciate that much more too, the way you have it lit and displayed. But yeah, just what an amazing display this is right here.
So appreciate it. Yeah, that's interesting. You kind of mentioned that kind of education part of it, because I got a buddy who probably more of a prequel fan, but admittedly, a pretty big Star Wars fan too. And the first time he came over, he saw some of the stuff. He's like, you know, what is this? It kind of looks like a tauntaun, but
Yeah,
why
yeah,
why doesn't it have fur? Why isn't it painted?
right.
But it's an interesting conversation piece, and I think once you kind of understand that it's part of the history, part of the background of the making of these movies, it's cool to have.
Well, and yeah, like I said, it makes a hell of a lot more sense when you see some of the concept line. But
Yeah.
what you have to understand is that when this was out at the same time, or maybe not at the same time, but aroundish, maybe the same time as Sideshow's Tauntaun with it was fully painted, fully like
Oh, okay.
you could put like a Luke hot toy. I think it came with. Did it come with a
No,
six?
you gotta buy them, but
Okay.
yeah, they were made to
But
come with that.
you'd sit like a 6
Yeah.
scale figure on it. It looked fantastic. But you compare those two things and like one does not look like the other, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
weird. But then when you see it in the proper setting, the way it's supposed to be, it looks freaking fantastic. Like
Yeah.
it's a great piece. CC has this one too, I think.
Oh, she does.
She does, doesn't she, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah, she has this
Okay.
one. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
real
I got
quick,
a
Indiana
couple
Jones.
indie pieces. Yeah.
No, it's cool. Are you gonna get more? You think you'll do more Indiana Jones pieces from?
I know.
Regal?
I think tomorrow, was it tomorrow? I think they
The
released
dagger, right?
the dagger. I
Mm.
don't know if I'll pick that one up.
It's a good looking piece.
It's really cool. I'm trying to find out a way to just kind of limit the indie pieces.
Yeah.
So I'm
Oh yeah.
thinking maybe
Yeah.
I'll just get an idol if they do that, and then have.
I tell you what, though,
I think that'd
Steven,
be cool.
I tell you what, with the way you're sitting this thing, like that dagger, because it's on the stand and it's higher up,
Yeah, it might fit like nice
it
in the
would
back.
it would look really nice
I gotta
It'll
see if
behind.
look
it'll fit
great.
in there. If
And
it'll
it's got
fit
a
in there,
museum style stand
yeah,
with the two hooks like you see in an
Mhm.
actual museum
yeah,
where they hook.
Oh,
Yeah.
because the base, you're talking about the base fitting in with these.
Yeah, so they used a base that is very similar to like when you go to a museum and you see like the African masks and the
Yeah.
little they
Yeah.
use the one with the metal
oh, the
hooks. Like,
hanging.
yeah.
Yeah, it looks cool. We'll see. I'll kind of see how it plays out. If they release some more photos or some more things, I might get swayed. But
Yeah.
and the good thing is indie pieces are pretty affordable as far as Regal
Yeah.
Robot stuff goes.
Yeah.
So
They
they
look
haven't had
great.
anything too ridiculous yet.
Gosh, they look good. Honestly, it's about damn time someone's making some really, really, really good Indiana Jones pieces because
Yeah,
it deserves it. Like,
My thing is I personally don't know enough about Indiana Jones stuff. I've seen the
yeah,
movies. I just didn't get into them when I
sure.
was younger. And obviously I followed suit with what my friends are into and we grew up, again around Return of the Jedi, Star Wars,
yeah,
getting the figures, and I never really got like that deep into Indiana Jones. So when the stuff is released, I'm familiar with it. I understand like what some of the pieces are, but I don't know the meaning behind it and the details. And
Mhm.
I just plus it's just a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. And it's like, do I want to revisit and watch the movies and do this research and that research? And like it could be fun, but it's just it's just one more thing in addition to the maquettes and the busts and putting all that into my collection in addition to it's a tough one.
I
Having
tell
a
you
couple
what,
pieces
though.
like this is good.
I tell you what, Stephen, though, like I will say this that there's some things like for me,
yeah,
I have like Star Wars on one side and then freaking Masters of the Universe on the other side. It's like freaking what the hell are you doing, right?
yeah.
The Indiana Jones stuff really does fit well with
Oh, it does, yeah.
In there,
Star
yeah,
Wars. It just like it can be not that you'd want to necessarily put them right side by side, but like,
yeah.
But
it,
it shows right here that it doesn't stand out. It's
no,
not odd. It's not
it looks
awkward.
great.
Yeah,
It looks
I
great.
think it looks great.
Oh, here's a closer shot of this guy. Man, all that detail in the fur is crazy.
I had some better pics of the Wampa too that I brought out the table, put some dry ice and stuff to take some kind of like Hoth looking
That's cool.
photos. But yeah, man, the detail, especially in the mouth, you really can't see it very well with a camera because you need to get like a light or something up in there
Yeah.
to see everything. But yeah, there's just like rows of like jagged teeth and the gums, all of that stuff. It's
And
wild.
that's the great part about the
Wild stuff.
Regal pieces. Like, I feel like most of the manufacturers would stop at like the superficial, like what you can visually see, and
Yeah,
then why bother putting the detail? Even like with the Chewie, like if you stick your finger in his mouth, like his tongue is there, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all the
it's
way.
there. It doesn't just stop right there. Like the detail keeps going. even after the fact, which is like nobody's ever gonna see it, but that
Yeah,
just adds so
agreed.
much more to it.
Well, and you don't realize how like how much how much like it's almost like they waxed they waxed the fur almost or something,
Mhm.
but it's just got so much like texture to it. It's freaking.
Yeah,
Do
and
you have
a
this
lot
one,
of the
Matt?
pictures show very white, but
I
it's
don't
got
have
like a
this one.
yellow.
No, I don't have this one.
Okay.
I thought pretty heavily about getting this one, but I didn't pick it up.
This one I
Uh,
picked up, just didn't do the life size.
Yeah.
okay. Did you feel the or Jason, because you mentioned the waxy feel, they have that snow kind of application over it. It really
Mhm.
does have like a weird smooth,
Mm,
Yeah.
texture to it. So
It's
that's why
almost
I
like
was wondering
after
if
a
you picked
candle
it up.
melts and rehardens, it's got that weird, like, glassine kinda feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange, but it's a cool piece, and Empire is one of my favorite movies, so it felt fitting.
killer. Yeah, love it. Here's another beautiful shot of the tauntauns.
Tauntauns, yeah.
It's so cool how they're all just so different. And isn't it that each side they made it so that each side of each tauntaun is a different.
Yeah, it has a
They're asymmetrical, yeah. I think 2 of them. I don't know, or 2 or
Yeah.
3 of them. I don't know if all of them are like that way.
the
I'd have to look at them again.
the second one, the brown one, has 2 different size faces, and I think the one at the
That one's
end.
wacky, man, but it's cool. It looks
Yeah.
like a I don't know, like a lizard or something.
Yeah, so cool. I love that.
Which one do you think is closest to the final?
Oh gosh. I mean,
Probably the one all the way to the right.
this
Am
one,
I right?
yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to say this one. I mean,
But they all have some small some
yeah.
resemblance
Like,
of it.
characteristic of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say this one.
It's kinda
Other
like
than
when you're looking at a
the
child and you're
cur
like, "Oh, you have your mom's eyes, but your dad's mouth," or it's kinda
Yeah,
like one of
yeah,
those
yeah,
things.
right?
I
Yeah.
wonder because I've seen some behind the scenes, they talk about how George initially told Phil, like, "I want, like, a lizard, creature for Hoth," and, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I remember hearing, and it's
Yeah,
kind of funny
you
how they ended up like a more of a mammal looking,
well, the
you know
second one in, if you look at some of the older drawings and concept sketches that Phil took further, you see him
Mhm.
more like that, kinda like an anteater style or a lizard style look.
Mm.
Something, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, no, you're correct on that, yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, that's
Great image.
my pretty much my only other autograph piece, but, uh, yeah, I mean, good Jedi promo shot.
Yeah, no,
Good
it's really
decision making too. I like you mentioned earlier, when we first started chatting about, not just like hitting that button and worrying after the fact what you're gonna do with it or where you're gonna display it.
Yeah.
And I sometimes say to people like when you have restrictions like that, you shouldn't look at them as limitations, but if anything, look at it as a means to sort of help you sort of stay in line because I mean, dude, we're all collectors here. We all know the way it goes. We're all in the hyperdrive looking at the big show and tells. People are
Yeah,
just consuming and consuming. And there's
everyone.
nothing against that. I'm not speaking ill of anybody in that sense. It's just we all get caught up in the hype and the FOMO and this piece looks amazing. I have to have this piece. And you're in that moment, right? Like the momentum of like getting it. And then you're right after the fact, well, where am I gonna put this thing? Or does it display well in my collection? And I have this theme or this color,
Mhm.
thing going on. And so sometimes when you think it through, and I used to say this very early on, quite often is curating a collection is just as important as collecting in and of itself, like what you're collecting and how you're collecting.
Yep.
And I think it's hard to get past that mindset. Even when
Yeah.
you have that self-awareness, it's still hard because there's so many. I mean, did I get stuck sometimes even with hot toys. I haven't collected a hot toy in a couple of years, but still something will
Mhm.
pop up. And, oh my god, so cool! Can I have to have it? And I'm like, what am I doing? No, I don't need that. Like, but
Yeah.
you get caught up in that, so it's hard. But yeah, even like you said, you're not an autograph guy, but you have some key images. Harrison Ford, Vader with Earl, James Earl Jones and Dave Prowse. 3PN R2, like classic. Just nice images, and you kind of can't beat it. So
Yep.
it's a good way of going about it.
For sure. Yeah, there's a
Nice.
Wampa again.
Another Wampa shot. Ooh, this is a nice shot of the tauntauns.
Look at that color. Look at the overall the hues and colors. That's
Mhm.
great.
It's great. And you can
Yeah.
see the different sides of them a little bit better here. So you got a bit
Yeah,
better
yeah, I
visual.
think that 3rd from the left, he's got, like, 1 eye. I don't know, you can kinda see it, the other one to
Mm.
the just to the right.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, that one
Matt,
there, you can see
did you never
Mhm.
have this
the
set, Matt?
No, I didn't get
Oh,
this.
okay.
I
Okay.
I again, this was one where I was very tempted, but I decided not to. I think if I had picked up the Tauntaun at some point
Yeah.
down the line, I would have gotten this set because I think they fit perfectly with this.
So I got the mini bus first, funnily enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what I found, and thankfully so, because they shot up like crazy in
Yeah.
aftermarket. But
Yep.
they're cool, and I think if you have one or the other, you almost kind of need both of them.
Yeah.
That's the thing with a lot of the Regal pieces. You almost kind of have to have the lot of them,
Well, I
or a
mean,
lot of
It
again,
things.
helps.
Yeah,
It helps explain the story too and the
does, yeah.
history.
the iterations. Yeah, different
And you're
versions.
finding, Steven, I think you're finding out what everyone already knows as well, that like it's so hard to once you get something in the Regal,
Yeah, dude, it's hard.
world, it's really hard to.
That's why I'm thinking of drawing the line on the dagger. It's really cool. I'm just thinking I need to say no to something.
No, I hear you,
And that
man. I hear
one's
you.
easy. The
'Cause
staff
it's
too, probably. I think I probably will pass on that one just because I don't know where I'd put it.
yeah.
But they do an
Yeah,
idol.
you don't have the Jabba or the I'm sorry, the gaffy stick,
I
right?
don't. I've been
Right.
very tempted with Jason's gaffy stick, but I need to I need to figure out where I'd put it.
That's it. That's it.
If I
That's
find a
the
place
thing.
for it, then yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of people, when I speak to them, I hear is like the displayability of it is tough, right? Because it's long and yeah,
It's fun.
it's a tough piece to display.
You almost need a wall shelf, or I've seen some people have like they attach some pipes or something and kind of have it like resting. Not the plaque, but just kind of
Yeah, I have
sitting,
seen that where
over stuff.
they bounce on the wall, kind of like a reverse lightsaber. They do it this way. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
keep saying, I've told you, Jason, like the whole like getting one of those guitar holder things
Yeah.
would
Oh, they have
It's
like
kind of like
rubber on them.
what I have behind me. Yeah, it's the clip and
would hold the gaffy stick perfectly, like vertically on your
because
wall,
then you yeah,
because you
because
can put
then you
those
could
anywhere.
display it this way. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You display it vertically, which is freaking sick. Yeah, that's another piece that I forgot about. That's great. Okay, here's another shot of
Yeah, the Rancor.
Rancor. Man, it's great. I love that earring, dude. You don't realize how much detail's in that earring
Oh,
until
they
you get
like
up close
wound
to it.
the wire around it and
Yeah.
Yeah,
get the little
yeah, it's so detailed. It's crazy.
I had the sideshow Rancor before too, the big one, the big 1/6,
Yeah.
and man, it's funny. You would think that one is much harder to display because it's so freaking tall,
Hmm.
but this one's scary with the arm sticking off so
I know.
far.
Yeah,
That's why I got it there in the corner just so I don't walk near it and bump it off or something.
exactly.
I've heard a
But
few
That is,
the
people like
detail
I've
is
walked
crazy.
into it and
yeah, that's scary.
yeah,
I
But
love the
the
I love the
detail.
eyes too, the
the
gray.
BBs.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
BB. Yeah, so sick. It's such a good piece. Let's see what's after this. Oh, this is the last one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let me go back to this then. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, geez, Steven, killer job, dude. I mean, honestly, you've not. It's one thing to get the pieces. It's a whole nother thing to display them properly and make it very visually appealing and very easy to walk around your collection and see things. It's great. You did a great job.
Appreciate it, man.
Really like that, and I like that you've kind of focused in on the Regal stuff. I mean, not that you can't get anything else. It's just really nice.
Yeah. I'm at this point, I'm kind of trying to just do that stuff. And I think anybody who has anything from Regal or seen any of the stuff in person, they just do their stuff so well. It's hard to say no to some of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
They got amazing customer service too. I've never had a bad experience with them. So all around, probably the best company that I've dealt with for any of this sort of stuff.
Well, oh, Jason, you're muted. You're muted, bud.
I was saying, you know what you're getting no matter the purchase. You could be
Yeah.
buying a magnet or you could buy a bust. And
Yeah.
from $30 to $3,000, you know that when that arrives in hand, you're getting something top quality.
Well, isn't it pretty amazing too that like they're one of the only companies I feel like that if something were to break on a piece that you can't get another version. You can't, like if you broke something on the Salacious or something on the Rancor and this is years past, you could still probably send that back to Tom
Mhm.
and they can fix it because that's what they do.
Yeah.
Like they actually
was
restore
yeah.
things. And so like that's pretty amazing. Like there's not a lot of companies that would not that they would do it necessarily for free, but that said, they can do it. They could fix your piece if they needed to. That's pretty awesome.
So
Yeah,
if you ever
just
move the Rancor and you walk by him and take his arm off, then yeah, you're good.
Actually, I had a scare with the Rancor too because when I was moving him and I tried to take the arm off just to be safe and not have it dangle and fall off while I was taking it off of a top shelf. And the freaking magnets, I don't know if you've noticed, the magnets are really, really strong in the Rancor.
mhm.
Yeah, we have to give it a
So
like
yeah,
a
it actually
yeah.
separated the glue in the hand. So I had the hand with no magnet in it.
Mm,
Or no, it was the hand with both magnets in it, and the other end had nothing.
I got you.
Right?
Yeah,
So, I super carefully had to kinda get something to wedge it in there, get it out, and, but, uh, I messaged Tom, he walked me through it, and I got a thing back together. No issues, no breaks, nothing,
that's so good, dude.
but
Yeah.
he's real good about replying and
Well,
kinda giving
and,
help
like,
and stuff too.
you also don't realize that, like, this Salacious, the way that thing goes together and how you have to, like, unscrew the butt and, like,
Dude,
put
that
you
was a
know,
pain.
but it's you don't realize that until you're doing it, and all of a sudden you're like, "Holy shit," like, they was really smart how
Yeah.
they made this thing, it's smart.
For
And the design
packing,
of that
it's
came
perfect.
following the Rancor
Yeah,
because of
Yeah.
the potential issues, yeah.
right.
Well, I think it makes sense for Salacious too, because since he was kind of, I mean, they're both hand puppets, but I think the seams that are present are pretty well hidden with, kind of the rolls of skin.
Yeah,
And it makes sense that if they had him there, that there would be some sort of seams on on the joints and whatnot.
yep.
Yeah.
And he's got the fur too, so
I didn't even think of that, you're right, you don't even unless you have them in hand, you don't even realize that there's actual seams, you don't see them at
yeah,
all,
you
then
you you really can't, and it doesn't bother me the small ones that you do because even looking at photos and things like that of the film, it looks similar. There's the rubber's
Yeah.
kind of bunching up in some areas or whatever
Mhm.
they were using.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, yeah, I mean, look, that's it. Anything else, Jason, that you wanna
No,
bring up
I
at
want to
all?
say thank you to Stephen for joining us.
Mhm.
Again, it's one thing to see images being shared in the group; it's another thing to talk, face to face and get some background and history and things like that. So I really appreciate your time. I did want to ask though. I know Matt touched on. I know you'll be sticking with some of the Regal stuff. Was there anything in particular that you're looking forward to? Anything that you're excited about? And do you have like a if I could have this piece made, it would be
As far as Regal goes, or just in general?
let's stick with
In
Regal.
general. Okay. I'd say for coming soon, I think the space slug is going to be cool.
Mhm.
It's going to be tricky or interesting seeing if people are going to go for. I imagine most people are going to go for the smaller one, just because it's going to display easier. Um, but they kind of have like a puppet line going. I think you guys talked about that. They have Salacious, the Rancor, the Wampa.
Mhm.
So it almost makes sense to get another one-to-one puppet for those that already have the other stuff.
Yep.
So I'm excited for that, and I think for like new pieces going forward, I'd love to see him do an Akbar bust, man. I think that'd be sweet. I know Sideshow
Yeah,
has one from like 10 years ago, but I think
yeah,
Regal could do it. You know, knock it out of the park with that.
yeah.
So
We've heard rumors of that, haven't we, Jason? I feel like that's a possibility. I don't remember of, like, anything actually happening for reals, but
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, I think it's listen, it doesn't matter. The I keep drilling this into Tom. I know he hears this through the grapevine all the time. I talk about I want him to make an Ewok. Like, I
that'd
want
be
him to
sweet.
make
Matt
something
wants to
Ewok
walk.
for the love of God because
Hasn't he done some like one-offs for people
yes,
of
yes,
Yeah.
Ewoks, right?
yes,
I mean,
and
I'm
they look
sure it'd be
incredible.
nice to have a run though. It would definitely bring down the cost. So
That'd be so
A
nice.
lot of the pieces, Stephen, have started off as
They
one-offs.
have, yeah.
Like CZ3 was a commission turned into edition.
Mhm.
Sal was commissioned turned into edition.
Yep.
A lot of them started off as one-offs, yeah.
that,
So
that was you all too, right? Or you and a few others on Salacious?
Yeah.
yeah,
If I'm not
we
mistaken?
initially
This year's
myself and one
Jason and
other
someone else.
yeah, myself and another gentleman had we both inquired right around the same time, but then when we heard the price, it was kind of like as a one-off piece, it was
Yeah,
it
it's
was up
crazy.
there, as you can
It's
imagine.
crazy.
So then he was reached out to and said, "Hey, I think I have somebody else interested." And same thing was told
Mhm.
to me, somebody else is interested. If you can round up a few more guys. So, of
Okay.
course, we got together once or twice a week, and I was like, "Hey, you guys got to get in on this because otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to afford it." But
Yeah.
yeah, we got it down to a reasonable price. I think all in all, there was 6 of us in, 5 or 6 of us in on it to get it
Yeah.
commissioned. Yeah, it was a great process to watch and see, and But yeah, and then he said, "Hey, are you guys cool if we turn this into edition piece?" And I was like, "By all means, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
this is definitely something that's gonna go into the community. It's amazing." Yeah.
Oh, so killer.
I'd
Yeah.
love for them to do a Yoda too. I think that'd be sweet. I don't even know if
Regal
the
Robot
original
Yoda?
is there, but that'd be awesome.
Eh,
That would be nuts. Yeah.
That would be nuts. Do you think that would ever happen, Jason? I don't know if that would there's so many
It's not
Yodas out there that
Yeah, I mean, Philip does an amazing job. You get Nick Maley does an amazing job, but
Mhm.
again, too, right? I mean, Regal, anything Regal does. The problem is like what Yoda. I would. It's one of those never say never type things,
Yeah.
right? It's definitely a possibility we might actually see it. But then again, there's so many of the things that they do so well, right?
Yeah,
And because they do such like unique pieces, Tom sometimes takes the mentality of like, yeah, we would knock Yoda out of the park. I think he's even had the intent to do Yoda in the past.
yeah.
But then there was some licensing things, and plus there's just so many other things they can do well and do great that it's like, well, Yoda's Yoda, right? Let's try to do the more unique pieces. But again, I mean, they're going to be around for a long time, so
Yeah. I
I
think
wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
I think any of the Cantina stuff was. I'm surprised they haven't done it so far. I know Tom's a big fan of the
Oh yeah,
Cantina,
I think
scenes, and I think that'd be great.
they will at some. I mean, have you seen? By the way, Steven, have you seen our collector spotlight with Tom Spina?
I don't think I did. I don't think so. But he
It's
has some original like screen use stuff,
yeah,
doesn't
yeah. He's got
yeah.
a
He's
lot of
got a lot of the
original stuff. I mean, yeah. Honestly, I don't think does Tom have anything that's not somewhat original. I feel like that's kind of more his
his
collecting
thing?
style, right? So, um, no, he's got some stuff that I would love to see. It would be so cool if they turned some of even the stuff that he has into actual pieces. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but he's got some really killer stuff. So that'd be cool. Um, anyway, that's it, guys. I mean, that's Steven's collection. How I'm glad that we're doing this again. I'm excited. We're gonna do more, Jason and I, and hopefully CC's on vacation, I think, right now. So yeah, otherwise, I think that's it.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. It
yeah.
was
Thank you
great
Absolutely.
for taking
talking to
the
both of
time, man.
you.
No, it's great talking with you. And dude, again, great job on your
Thanks.
collection. You really, really killed it. So, all right, guys, we'll see you on the next one.